Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live feed. It is Saturday, the 15th of April, 2023. And today I am the teacher and you are the class. So thank you for wanting to expand your knowledge today about the misinformation that is provided online in enthusiast communities and of course most YouTube content in the tech arena is created by enthusiasts. And this isn't to put enthusiasts down. I don't think enthusiasts realize the misinformation or incomplete information they are providing. So for those of you lucky enough who want to, well, first of all, who found the video, and secondly, who want to really have a better understanding of thermal compound and what it does, you will walk away from this ideally with a better understanding of what thermal compound is, why it doesn't make any sense for most people to replace thermal compound ever, or to buy expensive thermal compounds because they're all mostly imperceptibly the same. So I want to start things off by explaining, and then I've got a couple of old units here. We're going to give these away, and these are i5 6500 processors, so they're from, I don't know, when did that processor come out? Somewhere around 2016? They're pretty old, and I'm assuming they've never had thermal compound replaced on them based on the amount of dust I'm seeing in them. And will run Prime 95 before replacing the thermal compound and after. And I hope you're sitting down because we might actually make thermals worse by replacing the thermal compound, or they might just be identical and make no difference whatsoever. And I'll explain why people see lower temperatures after they do this. And it involves a number of variables they're just not considering. So, we ready to get into this? I'm going to prove everything I'm talking about today, and I hope you remain skeptical if you care, and don't take anybody's word for anything on the internet unless they're a known, trusted source. And having a big audience does not make you a trusted source. Some of the most professional content creators coming from an expert scenario where they work in a profession for decades have some of the smallest audiences, while some of the younger crowd who don't have the experience attract a younger crowd, of course, which are more online than the older crowd and more likely to see the content. So there's a reason why so much misinformation exists, and it's based on who's providing the information. So not that those people also, there's a lot of people that were professionals decades ago trying to dole out experience that doesn't apply with today's technology. So that's another battle. I think everybody means well. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I just don't think they really know any better. So it's up to you to protect yourself. And I would encourage you to replicate anything you see here that you think can't be right so that you can experience it for yourself. Because no matter what you see online or what you read, nothing replaces your experience. There's no way any video you're going to watch is going to teach you how to ride a bicycle. It's just not possible. You have to get on the bicycle to understand what balance is and how to master it. Nobody can explain it. There's not a how-to video that's going to put you on that bicycle for the first time and you're not going to fall right over. It doesn't exist. Personal experience speaks much, much louder, and I'm here to explain why. All right, so first of all, thermal material, thermal compound, thermal paste, that goo we stick on top of a CPU heat spreader, then we put the heat sink on top of that. All that goo is doing is helping the thermal transfer from the heat coming off that plate onto the surface of the bottom of the CPU cooler. Now, I think where we're running into some problems with the average audience is they think the word cooler means, I don't know, refreshing. Thermal paste is not cooling compound. I'm going to repeat this, it'll be on the test later. Thermal paste, or any thermal material, is not cooling compound. If I was outside and it was really hot, and it's Phoenix, so it is, and I get one of those wet wraps that put around my neck, that is nothing like thermal compound. because that would actually help cool me. That would be a cooling. So if you touch thermal compound, it's not like menthol. It doesn't have a cooling feeling to it. Thermal compound simply helps the transfer of heat. If you look at the top of a CPU heat spreader with a microscope, although the metal looks smooth, it is actually porous and it has little dents and scratches in it, very, very microscopic, invisible to the naked eye. But those multiple hundreds or thousands of little scratches and little dents, those can affect the heat transfer because the metal has to be in contact with the other metal to move that heat efficiently. So we don't have to use thermal compound. We can just slap metal on metal. Depending on the metals we're using, your cooler could be made of aluminum. That's terrible. Copper, better. And as the price goes up, gold, platinum, the thermal efficiency goes up. So yes, if you had a platinum CPU cooler, you probably wouldn't need to use any thermal compound at all. Let me know how much that costs you. What is that, about $1,500 an ounce or $1,800 an ounce? Anyway, sometimes you'll see a bit of both. You'll see an aluminum cooler with a core, copper core center, because the copper core is better at transferring the heat. So for price for the metal, copper is really the best value. Aluminum gets the job done, but it doesn't do it very well. It is lightweight. And these other metals are heavy metals, and as a result, can put a lot of stress on your motherboard if you're hanging them sideways. If it were even possible to buy a platinum or a gold or silver CPU cooler, it'd be very heavy. So all the thermal compound does is it fills in these microscopic, I'm going to talk slowly, microscopic nooks and crannies, like a little English muffin, but you got to look under a microscope to see it. And it levels all that out so that when we put the bottom of the heatsink on top of it, which also is porous and has little nooks and crannies, these two items are as close as we can get with the thermal material to them absolutely touching at all times in all places. Otherwise, metal on metal, the little missing gaps and scratches leave little gaps, and so the heat doesn't transfer as efficiently. It still transfers, just not as efficiently. If you put too much thermal compound down, then you're going to have too much of a gap, and you're going to separate the distance between the two metals. If you put too little thermal compound down, which that would be a bit of a stretch, because essentially you'd have to leave parts of the CPU or the cooler bare in order for there to be any definition of too little. So normally what you'll see me do is use a nitrile glove, and I will spread out the thermal compound evenly at 100% CPU coverage. I don't squish it down because then I don't know how much coverage I've got without lifting it up and looking. If I've got too much, it oozes off the sides. Whoopsie, not exactly building customer faith if I do that as a professional. So the only way I can guarantee I have even application of thermal paste is by spreading it as though I'm finger painting. And that way I can control just how thick it is, and I can dab on it to create little hills and valleys so I still get rid of air bubbles and such when I squish it down. That's why I do it. Now, I'm not the thermal police. Thermal police? I'm not the thermal paste police. I don't care how you want to apply your thermal compound. I don't care if you want to spend $50 on your thermal compound. It's your money, okay? But for everybody else who does care, if you doubt what I'm saying, you can replicate everything I'm about to show you. The software I'm using is free to download. You can use this on your own computer and run your own tests, and I think you're going to be floored. All right, so there's no tricks. This is all live, unscripted. I don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you the results before they happen, but I do have over 30 years of experience in this, and I suspect one of two things is going to happen when we replace thermal compound. One, it's going to make zero difference, or two, it's going to make a very minor difference, no more than 2 or 3 degrees Celsius, and it could be hotter, 2 to 3 degrees hotter, or 2 to 3 degrees cooler. We could actually make it worse. So what's happening when people say, well, when your thermal paste gets old, it gets hard and crusty? Does it? Here's the thing. When people say that, that tells me they're working with a cold computer. So if I put the thermal compound on one of these units, it's probably going to look crusty. But if we turn it on for 20 minutes, let Prime 95 run on it, and then we look at the thermal compound, it'll probably be ooey gooey. So you're going to see what you want to see? Is that how this works? Forget science. Let's just go with our feelings. Furthermore, when people see their CPU running hot, it's usually because the cover's on the case. And when they go to replace their thermal compound, they take the case off, the cover off the case rather, they'll blow out the heatsink and the fan, and then they change the thermal compound. Then they put it back together, leaving the cover off, and they run their thermal test again, and they go, wow, look at the difference it made. Okay. This is what the mistakes, they don't realize they're not being scientific in their analysis and are coming up with a solution or an answer that is in a non-scientific, replicatable solution to justify their conclusion, which is completely wrong in most cases. So let's address this. Why do these videos exist? Why do these people make videos about, expensive thermal compounds and the proper application? Because they're extremists. If you're on a diet and you're only going to eat a certain number of calories per day, will it really matter to you that much if a meal has 10 more calories than another meal? Isn't it close enough? But if you're on an extreme diet and you're trying to lose a certain amount of weight by a certain date, then you're going to be over the top in your inflexibility and your lack, what's the word? You're going to be super, super stringent, strict, very strict. Other people will look at you and go, geez, it's 5 calories. Come on, what difference does it make? Oh, no, not going to have it. All right. Well, these people that make these videos, they're enthusiasts. And what they're trying to do in many cases is they're trying to take one of the most expensive CPUs you can buy and make it faster by overclocking it, which doesn't even make any sense anymore. Back in the 90s, when we were overclocking, we would double, triple our CPU speeds. Now you can get maybe 15% faster. Who cares? To spend all that money and all that time and all that frustration, but they enjoy it. They think that's fun. All right, hey, have fun. But if you're just a regular computer viewer, computer owner viewing these videos, it would be completely understandable for you to walk away from that video you just watched thinking, oh my gosh, I should probably change my thermal compound before something happens. No, something's more likely going to happen because you just did open heart surgery on your computer for no reason. Would you go under open heart surgery just to check it out? Sure, I don't know. There could be some buildup in there. Why don't we just clear that out? Because you could die? So if you want to do that, that's not for me to say. But I'm not going to fix something that ain't broke. I'm not going to endure surgery and expense and time as a proactive measure to something that may never have occurred to begin with if you'd have just left it alone. Now, at the end of the day, what you decide is up to you, but I want you to really think through if this makes sense for you. Just because it made sense for the guy making the video, do you and that person have the same goals? Are you trying to reach outstanding performance on your CPU above and beyond what the engineer said it was going to do? And are you willing to spend hours and hundreds of dollars for specialty cooling devices and materials to try and get 1 more degree cooler? Most of you are going to say no. No, of course not. Why would I do that? So let's get the close-up camera up here and let's take a look at what this thermal compound looks like just cold. Okay, so it's cold. This thing hasn't been turned on in, I don't know, a week or two. And I want to show you the difference between cold thermal compound and hot thermal compound, and that by looking at it when it's cold is no justification to say it's crusty or it's old. I'm crusty and old, but that's a different video. I don't run hot either. Not too hot. I'm well within the manufacturer's engineering specifications. All right, now, camera, close-up camera, are we ready? Let me activate close-up camera. All right, come on over here and let's take a look. I brought 2 out. It doesn't matter. Which one should I do? This one or this one? This one? This one? Okay. All right. This one's not too dusty, but again, these are Core i5 6500s. I don't know what year these came out. They've got to be 6 to 8 years old. And I seriously doubt anybody has ever taken the heatsink off of this. But let's do that now. With these units, they're super easy to work on because they're business class computers, so they're super easy. This is our CPU heatsink right there. And the way this works, unlike a typical consumer desktop, this fan covers the RAM, and as it's blowing air down on the RAM, it's also pushing it through the heatsink vents on this side, right through here. And then the hot air blows through this radiator and comes out here. So you can put your hand back there and you can feel the warm air. So let's just take a look. This is what people do, by the way. They just take a blind look and they go, oh, it's crusty and old. Because, why? It's going to be on the test. Because it's cold. Thermal compound changes its viscosity when it gets warmer. All right, here we go. I've never seen underneath this. Let me grab my glasses so I can see. You got a good focus there? Oh, this is actually gooey. All right, and then you can see the bottom of the heatsink. We've got some there. And you can see sort of this little pathway cut out in the thermal compound. And you'll see the exact opposite on the heatsink, where basically the thermal material lifted off and stuck onto the top in that pattern. Now, we can put this back together and try it and run temps, and then we can clean it. Just because, and by the way, the temperature right now in Phoenix, it's hot. And I think that's why that's gooey. If we did this in December or February, that would probably not be gooey. It says it's 83 degrees right now in Phoenix at 6:15 in the evening, 82 degrees. It's very, very warm. That's what most people feel in the afternoon. So I don't have the air conditioning on, and I suspect that's why that looks like that. The cooler your environment is, the less likely when this is cold, it's going to be gooey. Now, let me just put this back on and let's run Prime 95 as it is. And there's still dust and debris in this CPU heatsink. All right, I'm not going to clean it. In most cases, all you have to do is clean this and clean your fan, and you don't need to replace the thermal compound. You will see better results than taking the risk of replacing the thermal compound, which could reverse your results. You never hear people talk about that. You ever wonder why no one ever says, hey, I replaced my thermal compound and it's running hotter? Hey, we got a visitor. There's a cat out there. He's like, where's my dinner? Some feral cat showing up to be fed. That's how we met. All right. Now, let me just tighten that back down, lock it back down. All right, so 1, 2, and 3. You will see there's numbers on here. There's a 1, a 2, and a 3. That's the order they want you to tighten them. And if you ever take it off, you should take them off in the reverse order. That's to prevent one side of the heatsink from making contact and sort of sitting on an angle, because you can't see now if it's making contact with the CPU. So I want to make sure it's flush as possible. So we do opposite corners. All right, now I'm going to put the fan back on. That's just going to slide right back over like this. Okay, and then I have a little HDMI adapter here, since this only has DisplayPort and VGA. And I'll give it power. And I want to put the cover on it because we want to do this test accurately. So we're going to cover this up, let the heat stay in there. I've got my keyboard and my mouse right here. I'll turn that on. Flip this over like that. And what do I need? Oh, I need the HDMI cable So I will grab that, which should be on the floor here. Yeah, here it is. Buried under here. Okay. And we're going to plug that in right like that. Okay. This is why I enjoy making these videos. It no longer is about, it's no longer about what my personal, turn this more this way. It's no longer about what my personal opinion is. You don't have to take my word for anything. Watch. And if you can't believe what you're seeing is real, try it yourself on your own hardware. Okay, and then report back in the comments what your experience was, because I can already tell you what it's going to be. Made no difference, or it made such a minimal difference it didn't matter. All right, so let me turn this on, and then I'm going to go over to the HDMI port right there. And it says no signal right now. So I'm going to turn camera 1 on. You can turn that one off. And bear with me for a second as I try to get OBS adjusted. Here we go. Let me turn this on. Am I plugged in? There it goes. Okay, and then I'm going to move myself over a little bit here. And then we'll grab my utilities flash drive that has the utility software. I think I just turned it off. No, it says it's still on. The light coming in is making it difficult for me to see the power LED if this is on or off. But it should have booted up by now, so I'm confused. So that's got my utilities on it. We're going to use that here in just a moment. Am I plugged in all the way here? Am I plugged in all the way there? What am I missing? Pull the power again. Let's try it one more time. If I can't tell if it's on or off, I just pull the power. Then I know for a fact it's off. I can plug it back in again. Hopefully now it'll boot and take us into Windows here. Now these are the giveaway machines. Oh, we're not finding a bootable device. That's new. This test will be over real quick. Did I disconnect something when I was in there? Try one more time. Yeah, it seems like it's not finding the storage drive. So what I'm going to do, again, these are live videos, so things like this can happen, but another day in the life of a tech, I suppose. Let me take this off and take a look in here. Now, this unit is using, oh, you know what? This may not have a drive in it. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Yeah, I don't think this has a drive in it. We're going to have to use a different unit because this one doesn't have, there's no M.2 in here. Okay, I don't want to go through the process of putting a drive in it, installing Windows. Let's just go to this other one. I need to put a note on here. Hold on a second. I don't want to do that twice. I'm going to fix this problem right now. Needs SSD. Okay. How embarrassing is that? I've got about 20... I have 24 of these to give away, by the way. So that's why there's confusions. They're not all exactly the same. Like some have Wi-Fi and some don't. Let's take a look at this one. Let's open up this one and let's see what its thermal compound looks like. So let's go back to the close-up cam. Oh, this one's nice and dusty. Oh, this is going to work good. Now, wait a minute. Does this one have storage? I'm not seeing storage in these. What the heck is going on here? Here, you want to bring the close-up cam over? They can see what I'm doing. Come on over. There we go. I'm taking this little drive caddy out and to see if there's an NVMe drive underneath there. This SATA cable's for a 2.5-inch drive that would sit in here. I got no storage in this one. How am I missing? How did that happen? That is bizarre. What the heck? I thought I went through all of these, but apparently these two were in a special stack that I didn't realize I set aside, and I have now confused myself. But don't worry, I've got another 20 of these to pick from. And of course, during a live video, what are the odds that I pick the ones that don't have? These are not yet ready to go to be given away. We're waiting on some more storage. Typically, I'm putting a 250 or 500 gig NVMe drive in there. That is bizarre. I don't know how that happened. I thought I was done. Well, that'll teach me. That's no big deal. The show must go on. We're going to just slide this back on. Needs SSD. All right. So we're not going to make that mistake again. All right. Forget those. Now, stay put here for a second. Let me go to the other room. And let me just randomly grab one I've got laying around here. Here. This ought to work. All right. Now, this one's got notes on it. You can see these are the kind of notes I leave myself. Verifies the CPU, the amount of storage, the amount of RAM, whether or not it's got Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, whether or not Windows 10 Home or Pro, and whether or not it's activated. So this one is like ready to give away. All right, try this again. So we're gonna open up this one. All right. Oh, this one's got a, see, they're all differently configured. So this has a 2.5-inch SATA 256 gig drive. And again, if we want to, oh, and that one's got a single 8 gig module where many of them have 2 4 gig modules. So they're all different, folks. That's the luck of the draw with these when we're buying them off eBay. Now, you'll notice I am not taking it off in the backwards order, and I should be, because I'm used to having the front facing me. So as long as you sort of remove them about the same amount of tension, but we should be going in the opposite order. So 3, 2, and 1. Let's see what this thermal compound, that's pretty nice, actually. And then look down on the CPU. See, there's not a lot on there. And where we can see the surface of the CPU is over here, where we cannot see the surface of the heatsink because the thermal material stuck. Some of the thermal material stuck to the heatsink, some of the thermal material stuck to the CPU. That's why you only apply thermal compound to the CPU. You never apply it to the heatsink. If you buy a manufacturer's third-party heatsink or the included heatsink comes with thermal compound already on it, then you do not add any other thermal compound. In that case, it's already on the heatsink, and you just put that on top of a clean CPU. You don't do anything else. It's already pre-measured and done for you. But this is also still a bit gooey. It's not dry and crusty. However, let's go ahead and, this is not an indication, by the way, one way or the other, that it needs to be replaced. Whether it's dry and crusty or gooey has a lot to do with the temperature of the thermal compound. That's ultimately all I'm trying to say to you. So let's pop that back on there. And I usually like to start these, give them each a couple turns, because they are on springs. And then I will go around a couple more. That one's tight. And then I'm going to back that one up. It took it too far. We'll go all the way down on 1, all the way down on 2. Yeah, 2 really needed it. And then all the way down on 3, just like that. Then I'm going to put the fan back in, like so. Okay. Now, one more time, we're going to plug in the display port. We're going to plug in the power. See how fast this goes? This is all quick stuff, folks. And we're going to plug in our keyboard and mouse. Now, let me go back to camera 1, which is over here. Okay, thank you. And I will take camera 1 down a bit to the corner like I did last time. Put me right over there like this. And now let's turn it on. Oh, I should put the cover back on it because if we're going to run the thermal test, it wouldn't be fair to run the thermal test with the cover off. Okay, we don't have to tighten it down. We just want to keep that airflow restricted by the air is going to be coming in from the front vents on the front of this style of case, and it's going to be coming out through those vents here in the back that I already described to you. That's more like I was expecting. All right, so now what I can do is I'm going to go full screen on my side of things so I can see it the way you guys at home see it. And then I'm going to grab my utilities, flash drive, and we'll just plug that in right there. And on the utilities, we're going to grab HW info, and we're going to grab Prime 95 26.6. Okay, and then I'm done with this flash drive, so we'll just take that out, move that out of the way. And we're going to start with HW info. We're going to start this up. We're going to do sensors only. Oops, sensors only. And then I'm going to run Prime 95. Now you can see here what our temps are. Current temp, minimum temp, maximum temp, and average temp. All right, so let's start Prime 95 and let's hammer all 4 of these cores. And while that's running, we can minimize, oops, that's the opposite of minimize. We can minimize that, close that, and we can keep an eye on this. We have a clock running right down here that'll tell us when we're at 20 minutes. And then we will take a look at what our current temp and maximum temp have been in that end of that 20 minutes. Then we can clean off the thermal compound without blowing the fan or blowing out the heatsink. All we're going to do is replace the thermal compound. And we're likely going to see the exact same temps again. Well, why would you do that without blowing out the fan and the heatsink? That's my point. You will likely see a massive difference in your cooling by blowing out your fan and your heatsink. And a lot of people are like, well, since I'm in there, I might as well change the thermal compound. If you want to, but it likely makes 0 difference. You're attributing, many people are attributing the cooler temperatures after they clean the computer. For some reason, they fixate on the thermal compound and not on all of the other things they did while they were in there, such as cleaning the fins on the heatsink, cleaning the blades on the fan, blowing out any other dust and debris. And of course, when they test it, they often test it with the cover off. So we'll see what happens. In the meantime, while we're waiting, now finally, I can say hello to the chat room. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to a rare Saturday broadcast. And let me see what, if any, questions I have missed. Please feel free to retype your question. The chat only goes back so far. I do my best to address all technical questions. So let me just take a quick skim through here. See a bunch of familiar names there, all saying hello. Welcome in, everybody. Good to see everyone. Hope you're having a great Saturday. And can you change the thermal paste on a Nook 9 Extreme? Yeah, you could, but again, it'd be a complete waste of time. I'm not quite sure you're really hearing me, William. Let's see. So the problem is whether or not the paste is quote unquote fresh. Paste doesn't spoil. So this idea of having fresh paste isn't automatically better if you replaced a superior paste with an inferior one, if you accidentally damaged something when you were taking off the heatsink or putting on the heatsink, or if you put on too much or too little paste. There's a lot of variables that you have completely ignored by simply stating replacing the old with the new, at least the new is fresh. Pufferfish can be poisonous. Does it matter to you if you eat it while it's fresh? It's more to it than whether or not it's fresh. And whether or not it's fresh doesn't really pertain to any performance difference in cooling. At least if you saw a 3 degrees Celsius cooling difference, I would say that's extreme and unusual. That would be like in the maximum you'd be lucky to see. And in what world do you live in where 3 degrees Celsius makes any difference, since your CPU doesn't run any faster? If your CPU is at 90 degrees Celsius or at 30 degrees Celsius, it's still running the exact same performance. It's only a concern if you're throttling, if you're hitting your thermal throttle point, your thermal junction, which is typically around 100 degrees Celsius, give or take, depending on the CPU. Barry Klein says, I use Crest whitening thermal paste. It keeps my CPU whiter and fresher. There are videos where they have done that, where they've used toothpaste and peanut butter. And you know what's interesting is toothpaste can actually work better than thermal compound, but toothpaste dries out rather quickly. So it might work for a day or two. And I know you're just kidding, but I mean, they've actually tried this. And it actually works really good for about a day or two. And then it gets terrible. Jim KJ3N says, I'll be 63 years old in July. Don't talk to me about crusty and old. Jim, maybe we should change your thermal paste. Thomas says, I didn't get a notification you were going live. Make sure those notifications are turned on, folks. You got to go into your YouTube account settings to turn notifications on and tell YouTube how you want to be notified. And then you have to click on every subscription you've got and determine if you've got the bell icon selected and which of the 3 types of notifications you've turned on or turned off for each channel you subscribe to. I can hear this fan's getting hot. What's my temp look like? Looks like we are at 65 degrees Celsius right now with a maximum of 69, and we're 6.5 minutes into the test, so another 14 minutes to go. Anybody want to take a guess right now in the chat room how hot this is going to get as of, I don't know, again, I should really look up what year this came out, but it's like 6 years, somewhere between 5 and 8. What's the release date on a Core i5 6500T? Not that this came out on the release date, but within that year or two, I'm sure it came out. So it's somewhere between 6 years old, 8 years old. I think it's older than 5.
July of 2015.
July of 2015, so it's about 7 years old. Okay, and it's likely 7-year-old thermal compound down there we're just looking at. These are business class machines. Nobody in business, no IT department replaces thermal compound in any corporation I've ever worked at. In fact, if you did, you'd likely lose your job for wasting time and money when employees have help tickets that aren't being addressed and they can't work and the company's losing money while the employee's still on the clock getting paid. We have things to do. So again, this information provided online is filled with gaps and holes, which leads to essentially deception and misinformation, even if it wasn't intended to be that way. So let's take a look now. Scrolling. Martin Wolford says, well, Saturday night special, and such a divisive topic. I'll get the popcorn. But is it divisive? If I'm telling you 2 + 2 = 4, and you're insisting it doesn't, is that divisive? See, to me, something divisive is a matter of opinion. I like the way this tastes. I don't like the way this tastes. Wasabi can be divisive. Vegemite can be divisive. But facts are facts. Whether or not you choose to ignore facts suggests to me that if you're somebody who ignores facts and goes off of your feelings, somebody needs to go back to school. That's what I would take from that. Because I don't want a surgeon operating on me that didn't go to school, but instead goes off of his feelings or her feelings. I don't want to entrust anybody in any important service that I hire to be a hobbyist and to just wing it as though they're just a generic handyman that can fix anything, a master of, jack of all trades and master of none. I'm not hiring that person. I want somebody who knows what they're doing. That's why I'm giving them money. Now, if they're going to come help me for free, I still may not hire them or accept their free help because they might cause a lot of damage that at the end of the day, it's my responsibility because it's my stuff that they were working on. And anything they damaged because they were trying to help now just cost me more money and more time than if I would have just hired a professional. So in my experience, that's the difference about divisiveness and facts. The idea that we're living in a society where so many people can no longer tell the difference, they've lost their sense of judgment and they've lost their sense of research. They don't care. They care enough to continue to spout out their feelings, but they don't care enough to verify whether or not it's true. So I'm here to battle that. And that's why I'm making videos and I make them live, is to demonstrate to you what is inarguably the evidence before you. And if you want to argue it, then do it yourself and film it and post your evidence. Just as I'm doing. If you can't do what I'm doing, if you refuse to, you don't want to, then don't tell me what I'm telling you isn't true. Because I'm just going to remove your comment if that's the case. So I think this thing just went to sleep on me here, so bear with me for a second. I need to wake it up. Let's see. Just looking to see if there's any questions here in the chat room. Is this thing not waking up yet? Let me go full screen over here. Wakey, wakey. Hello, computer. Where did my video go? Maybe it didn't go to sleep. Did it overheat and shut? Well, it's not shut down. It doesn't feel like it's overheated. Paul Carroll with a $10 super chat says, hello, Carey. I had a couple of 80-degree days here, and tomorrow a drop back into the 40s, maybe snow. Happy Tech Week. Is that a new national holiday? Sure, why not? Are we going off what we believe? Or are we going off facts? I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to need to shut this off and back on again because I've lost video and I don't know why. That, again, proves this is a live video. I clearly would not do that with intention. I just want to unplug a few things here just to make sure that I had everything, like my DisplayPort cable, plugged all the way in just to see. Yeah, see, there we go. I didn't have it plugged all the way in. I had it plugged in enough for a while, then I lost connection there. So thankfully I didn't have to shut it off. The test has been running. We've not interrupted it. Phew. All right, let me take a quick look full screen at what our temps look like here. So right now, core temperature's at 69 and our maximum's at 72, and we're at 13.5 minutes We'll go 6.5 minutes more. We'll get to about the 20-minute mark. Again, if anybody wants to predict what our current temperature is going to be in 6.5 minutes and what our maximum temperature we're going to see during this entire 20-minute torture test on the CPU, put your predictions in the chat room, because that's going to be a great way for me to get my point across, I think. I suspect most of you will get those numbers wrong. Let's find out. And so if you're going to get those numbers wrong, then that should also be your message to yourself that you probably have the information on the thermal paste wrong too, unless you're already on board with what I'm telling you, because it makes sense. But regardless of that, you do you one way or the other. I don't have to live with the results of what you decide. I'm just trying to help, and I'm trying to explain why. If that's refused, if it's ignored, or if it's dismissed, doesn't matter to me. Ross Bittner thinks it's going to stay within 3 degrees of where you are now. Oh, I think it's going to get hotter than that. I think our maximum will get much hotter than 3 degrees. Well, we'll see. I think it'll be about twice that, maybe 6 to 8. But I could be wrong. Barry Klein says, at my former company, we replaced the thermal compound routinely every 3 years, along with the CPU, the cooler, the motherboard, the RAM, the storage, the case, the power supply, the keyboard, and the display. That'll do it. Did the computer shut itself off? No, it didn't shut itself off. It was running. I just had a loose display port cable. Frank M says, just for the record, I received the notification, Carey. Yes. Yes, when you're blaming the technology, in my experience, the customers who blame the technology, it's usually a setting the customer has set that's created that issue. And for the customers who blame themselves, like, I don't know what I'm doing, in many cases, it's the technology that's at fault. I don't know why that's the case, but most of the people who claim they're not receiving the notifications don't have their settings set up properly. And let's face it, YouTube, because there's so many different ways you can be alerted, whether it's a smartphone or email or, like I say, the YouTube app, or you're watching through a browser. You have to have a YouTube account that's free. You must sign up for a YouTube account. You must tell the YouTube account, your account that you created, if you want to be bothered with notifications. And if so, what kind of notifications do you want to receive? And then for every channel you subscribe to, hitting the subscribe button by default does not turn on any notifications at all. In addition to hitting the subscribe button, you've got to click the bell icon, and there are 3 options that come up. And you have to select if you want some of the notifications from this channel, all of the notifications from this channel, or none of the notifications from this channel. And, if you look at how to enable notifications, there's a bunch of videos on the subject, but if they're over a year old, it doesn't work anymore. YouTube changes it about every year or so. So if you want to watch a video on how to do that, pay attention to when the video was posted. If the video was posted in 2021 or before, don't waste your time. Those settings primarily don't exist, or if they do, they don't look like that anymore. Just so you know. So you're going to hit the subscribe button, and you're going to tap that bell icon to see the notification. So it's the subscribe button, and then it's the bell notification, and then you would select all if you want every notification for every video that I post on this channel only. And you need to do that for every single channel you subscribe to. And that's how that works. Okay, let's see where we at on this. Full screen. It looks like 76 is our max right now, and 69 is our current. So we have maxed out at 76 degrees Celsius. I have to move up a little bit here to see the screen. And we're at what, 18 and a half minutes? Oh, 19 minutes just now. All right, we got another minute to go. And you know, for years old, I don't know how many years old, but let's say 5 to 7 years old thermal paste, it's working no better and no worse than brand new thermal paste. And I'm about to prove it, because when this is done, that thermal paste is going to be super gooey and really easy to remove. We're going to wipe that out, clean it with some isopropyl alcohol, and then we're going to reapply brand new thermal paste, put it all back together, and run this again. And when we do that, how many of you in the chat think it's going to run cooler? How many of you think it's going to run hotter? And how many of you think it won't make any difference whatsoever? Place your votes. Remember, no wagering. What is the max core speed? Don't know, don't care. You can Google, right? Core i5 6500T. Type it into Google. What is the max core speed of a Core i5 6500T? And come back and tell me. I'm live. I don't have time to do that. You can do it at home, and then you can let me know, and you can help me out. All right. I think we're at, are we at 20 minutes yet? Yeah, we're at 20 minutes. Let's grab a screenshot of this. So let's see, I got to use the right mouse. I'm going to hit, let's see, Function Alt Print Screen, and then we'll bring up Paint. And we'll paste that, and we're going to save this, and we're going to call it Old Thermal Compound in all caps .jpg, and we'll put it on the desktop, right there on the desktop. So now we have a record of that. Now I'm going to stop Prime 95. I didn't mean to close that. Let's bring that back. And when I stop Prime 95, you'll see that our current temp is going to drop about 20 degrees Celsius very quickly. Also, if you listen carefully, you could probably hear that fan. It's quieting down now. Tim Sowell thinks that the temperatures will be the same. Matt Power thinks we're going to be 2 degrees cooler. Paul Garrett thinks it won't make any difference at those low clock speeds. Well, that's an important point, actually. Remember, I started this video off talking about the people who primarily are fixated on thermal compound are buying high-end, expensive, enthusiast-level CPUs, like the Core i9s, the Ryzen 9s, and they require extensive cooling solutions. And they often want to clock it even faster than it was designed to run, because it's an unlocked processor. And if they can eke out an extra 15% on top of the 15%, it is faster out of the box anyway than the comparable processor the next level down. Just for example, they want to get 15% on top of that, risking stability, meaning they have to spend a lot of money on thermal solutions. Then maybe 3 degrees one way or the other can make a difference. William Smith has been a member now for over 6 months. Right on, William. Thanks for being a member of the Tech Channel. Mark Gaines says, I don't think it's going to make any difference. Jim KJ3N says, if it makes more than a 5C difference, I will be stunned. Dustin Fuller thinks it's going to be about the same. DR Stewart said, I've used different brands. I'm guessing he's talking about thermal compound brands, with most working well until they dry out. Maybe that's the difference in quality among the brands, not necessarily a huge margin of thermal conductivity. Not sure what you're referring to as drying out. They will appear to be dry when they're cold. They should not appear to be dry when they're hot. I'm trying to recall if I've ever seen dry thermal compound that was hot. All dry thermal compound I've seen is cold, room temperature or below. Although my room temperature right now is hot because, you know, Phoenix. All right, so should we go to the close-up camera? And let's shut this down. So I have to go back to my OBS. I have to go back to full screen. Whoops, full screen is what I want. All right, and then I can shut down. Oh, look at that, we're already down to 44 here. Beautimous. All right, we're gonna shut it down. There we go. Okay, and then I'm gonna go, let's see, what do I want? Close-up camera, come on over. There we go. So down here, we're gonna pull this lid back off. Oh, there goes my USB dongle. I'm gonna take the fan off. We're gonna take this back off. Well, let me unplug this. We don't wanna work on this with power. Even though it's off, still power running through there. Safety first. Look at me go without my glasses. Just feel for it. All right, here we go. Now, you will likely get a much bigger difference in cooling by just blowing all that dust. I don't know how well they can see that at home. But that's, I mean, it's not clogged, but if I put air through that, I can guarantee a cloud of dust is going to come out of there. Now, to wipe out warm thermal compound, all you need is a paper towel. I'll usually just rip one in half, and it should just wipe right off. And then the same thing on the CPU. Look at how easy that comes off. So if you're scraping at dry thermal compound, that tells me that that compound is cold. When it's warm, it should wipe right up. So this idea that it's dry is in many cases a misconception. Not always, but in many cases, it's just cold. As I mentioned, thermal compound, like engine oil, it gets viscous as it gets warmer. So if you look at engine oil on a negative 20-degree day, and you look at the same engine oil on a 90-degree day, when the car's never been started, oh, there's a big difference in how long it takes to drain that oil, I can tell you. Usually when you drain oil on a car, you want the car to run for a few minutes to warm that oil up so you can get it all out of there. And not only will more come out, it'll come out faster. All right, let's get back down here. Now, onto the heatsink, I've got the isopropyl alcohol. We're just gonna clean that up. And then we're gonna do the, look at what came off. We're gonna do the same thing right down here. Gonna clean that up. These are just regular old cotton balls. We just wanna make sure we don't leave any cotton fluff behind. And then you will see that will evaporate. And I'll just use the other side of it and give it one more go just to be extra thorough. And again, see how much we pulled off, just a little tiny bit, big difference. Okay, let that dry for a second. It'll just air dry and evaporate unless you poured on a gallon of it. Put the lid back on your isopropyl alcohol or it will evaporate out of the bottle. Finally, we're gonna get some new thermal compound. This is just some leftover stuff I have from a scythe cooler. And I'm gonna put a dab of it. Is it dry? Yeah, it's dry. I'm gonna eyeball about as much as I think I need here. Oh, that's all that's left in the tube. Well, that solves that problem then, doesn't it? Then I'm gonna grab a nitrile glove, throw that out, and I'm gonna spread that around. Now, how you apply the thermal compound makes little to no difference. If you wanna draw lines, a happy face, if you're like me and you want to finger paint, just make sure you're not using latex or rubber gloves. And then I'm just gonna finger paint that on, and we're gonna just give it a dab like that. So that creates little hills and valleys. That prevents those little bubbles people talk about that really don't make any difference. It's not an airtight system. And dispose of the nitrile glove. And now we're going to put the heatsink back on, nice and clean. But remember, we never blew the dust and debris out of here. We're going to just set that right back on. And start turning the screws like that. So, number one, we'll tighten that all the way down. Number two, we'll tighten all the way down. And number three, we will tighten all the way down. Fan goes back on. Lickety split like that. And the cover goes back on like this. Slide it forward. Put the power back in. Why is this not sliding all the way forward? What am I missing? That looks good, that looks good. Something is in my way. Now it's time for my glasses because I can't see, something's blocking. I don't think I had that all the way down. Yeah, what a difference that made, huh? Okay, that's all put back together. I got to put the little keyboard and mouse dongle back on, hit the power button, and then go back over to the HDMI input. All right, you're clear, thank you. And we're back up and running just that fast. So now we're going to repeat the same test again. We're back over to full screen for me. And then I'm going to go to hardware info. Again, these are all free applications. Just Google them. You can find them. I always use the portable version, so I'm not installing things on my customers' computers. Sensors only are all I need for this test. And then we'll bring this down so we can see where our temps are currently. And then I'm going to start Prime 95 right now. Click OK, minimize it, and close that window. And we will keep an eye on these temps as the clock is running. So once again, while we wait, I'm happy to address your questions, your controversies, best I can. If you like content like this, be sure and hit the like button. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. Andy W386 says, that's a beautiful thermal paste application. You're a man of fine taste. All right. The like button. That's going to hit the like button. Where did my like button go? Oh, it's over here. Yeah, you can give this a thumbs up if you like this content and you want to see more like it. That's how you can let any content creator know. Also, let me do that again. Why is it all the way over there? Should be over here. Also, it's just a nice thing to do for any content creator, quite frankly. How many of you have ever made content? Good or bad? Just making content is work and it's stressful, especially when you just essentially become a punching bag for the public that have nothing else better to do than to rough you up for no better reason. So if you don't want to be like that kind of person, giving somebody a thumbs up, regardless if the content was good or not, at least they did it, right? And if you're not willing to do it, you should at least give them credit for at least they did it. And if you have done it, then you should give them a thumbs up because you know how much work it takes and how much unnecessary harassment people get when they post content, good or bad. So it's just a nice way to spread a little love around the internet. But also, if you truly enjoy content and you want to see more content from that creator that's similar, the like button is how creators know what to make more of. something that gets a lot of likes might be some sort of topic or subject matter that needs to be covered more in depth than something that doesn't. Craig Gasabona with a $20 super chat. Thank you very much, Craig. Appreciate you, my friend. And thanks to all my friends in blue that help keep the chat room civil. Ferris contributed $1 just a moment ago. Thank you, Ferris, and Paul Carroll with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Paul. You guys rock. That'll just about cover the cost of this thermal compound. I've got a bunch of thermal compound from all the leftover Scythe Mugen 5s I've been installing or have installed in the last 2 years. And this drawer is just filled with tubes and tubes and tubes of thermal compound. Do I need an intervention? I think somebody has a problem. Now, the next video will be on hoarding. I feel like one of those magicians that's pulling out the handkerchiefs. How many builds have I done in the last 2 years? Holy crikey. But wait, there's more. This is like my insulin. I think we have 20 more minutes of this. Oh, a little bit in that one. Watch this. Well, I think I got them all. Got any stragglers? Do you like my organizational system? I know it's in this pile. Everything's an organized pile. There we go. Hey, it's just a few coolers I've installed over the last couple of years. It's only 2 years worth, by the way. That's how many systems I've built or upgraded or repaired. You want to see that on a bigger screen? Yeah. I was wondering why that drawer was so much colder when I put my hand in it. All right, don't laugh. You're only encouraging me. All right, so where did we end up with this now? I've lost all track of time in my thermal compound mind. Okay, right now we are, what does that say, 8 minutes? Ugh. Get my glasses and walk up to the screen. I'm going to solve this screen issue. You watch. I'm going to solve it in a week or two. All right, we're at 71 degrees Celsius. We're running, we're just about 7 minutes in. Temps are looking pretty identical. But we still have 13 minutes to go, and a whole lot can change in the next 13 minutes. Glenn's music doesn't want to know how often I change my thermal compound. He wants to know how often I change my drawers. About once every 2 years. Carey, would you like to donate thermal compound to viewers? It'll cost me more money to ship this thermal compound. There's not much in these. These are what come with the coolers. So you're better off just going to Amazon. You can buy this Noctua what is it called? NH1. This stuff's really good for the money. It's like $8. NTH1 Noctua thermal paste. I don't buy it because it's Noctua. I buy it because of the quantity for price. There's probably 7 or 8 applications. These little side ones only have 2 applications. This plunger, brand new, is down to right about down there. So you only get about that much thermal compound, enough for about 2 applications, 2.5. So that's why by saving them up, I can squeeze enough out of them, because you don't want to mix thermal compound, but all of these side thermals are the same. All of these Noctua ones are the same. I was doing a lot of Noctua cooler installs a while back, so I have a bunch of the leftover compound, but you can just buy this Noctua compound.
Why don't you want to mix them?
They're made of different material. The thermal material is different, and the chemicals don't necessarily enhance one another, and quite the opposite. They can degrade the efficacy of the thermal material because you've ruined its chemical structure by blending 2 different ones together. You can try and let me know what your results are. Could be an interesting recipe, 2 parts Noctua to 1 part scythe. Could make something superior, but the thermal compound is not cooling liquid. It doesn't cool anything. It's heat transfer compound, and it's just the amount of heat transfer you're getting, which again isn't going to mean a whole lot if your fans are plugged up or you're filled with dust and your heat sink's all clogged. It won't matter how much gas you've got in the tank if you've got flat tires, So anyway, yeah, I've got a little bit of that left over. I'll just set that over here for now. Go past this line. Got it boxed in. None should escape. Hey, I had a runner earlier. You can pick up Arctic silver pretty cheap on Amazon too. That's fine. You don't get a lot of it. I think the Noctua I think you get more for the money. And I go through a lot of it. So if you only need 1 application, I guess it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Buy the cheaper one. Michael Lovell says hello, joining us at the chat. He says he just paid for the 5-year plan for RoboForm. I'm telling you, that's the way to do it. Pay for 5 years of subscription. You don't have to worry about it or think about it for the next 5 years. Ron Hillier says, runner, are you wearing pantyhose? Ron, that's none of your business. What does it matter if I wear pantyhose? You try and rob a bank without them.
Men in tights?
Men in tights?
Yeah.
I've known Ron now for 7 years. Long time. Eugene Hidalgo says, greetings, Carey and everyone in the chat. I'm now celebrating 54 years of a blissful and happy marriage. The secret? She is always right. So she's your angle? Heaven sent me an angle. Joe Justice says, my CPU temps have been at 50 degrees at idle. On what CPU? All right, let me go full screen again and take a look-see. Where are we at? 12.5 minutes and sitting at a current 70 degrees Celsius with a max 73. This is all feeling very deja vu. Let me just pull up the screenshot of what we did prior because I've already forgotten. Oh, I'm on the wrong mouse. So I got to come over here, pull up the screenshot. Boy, this thing is really working. It's taken a long time to pull the screenshot up. What have I done? Let's move that out of the way because I don't want to block it. Shouldn't be taking this long. Come on now. You're just loading a photo. You can do it. Bring it up again. Let's do it again. And again. And again. I'm going to torture the heck out of this thing until it works. Seriously? It's not going to come up? Well, that brought it up, didn't it? Let me just move that off to the right. So this is the results from before. I'll move them all the way over here. And we were at a max of 76 at a current of 72 at the end of 20 minutes and 11 seconds on that test. So I'll keep that up for reference. All right. Buns of Wisdom says, happy anniversary to Eugene Hidalgo. I hope you enjoy your day with your loved one. That was rude of me to not say happy anniversary, wasn't it? What he said. That's pretty amazing, 54 years of marriage. I'd have to get married straight out of the womb for me to have 54 years of marriage. Michael Dane says he's been running Prime 95 now for 30 minutes on a 10700K. His max temp has been only 60 degrees Celsius and his lowest has been 53. You got a liquid cooler on that thing? What kind of cooler you put on there, Michael? Uh-oh, was that my error message that popped up from trying to open the picture? I can't see it. Full screen. Yeah, that's what happened. A media is right protected. Well, I wasn't trying to change it. Yeah, it's probably going to pop that error message up every single time I clicked on that. So I tried to bring it up 4 times, so we're probably going to get this error message 4 times now. Hey, but at least it's responding. But Prime 95 is hammering the CPU. Absolutely hammering it. "15 minutes in, just about 4 minutes and change to go." Yeah, as long as I see that little toilet bowl flushing next to my mouse, I think it's still going to it's still trying to open that image because, you know, I was mad at it, so I punished it, and now it's still dealing with the pain. I think we got 1 or 2 more of these. Yeah, finally. Looks like it was 5 of them in total. All right, I bet it won't do it again. That's all I'm saying. It's effective. Psychological Windows repair. 74 degrees currently. 75 has been our maximum. 76 has been our maximum. What was it before? It was 76 before. So we've matched our max. We're not any higher, we're not any lower. And we are just a few minutes away from this 20-minute test. Let me walk up a little closer here. I can't tell if that says 16 or 18. Okay, we're just closing on 17 minutes, so we have 3 minutes left. Will that temp in the next 3 minutes get higher than 76, that maximum temp? And will this temp drop down to match the 72? Because this temp will fluctuate up and down. It's quite possible that at the end of 20 minutes, we end up with exactly the same numbers, even though we've replaced the thermal compound. Now, there's one other thing we can do after this, and that is shut it down, open it up, blow all the dirt and debris off the fan and the heatsink, and then run it again. And do you think that will make a difference in our temps? Or do you think our temps will be the same? And then what is to be gleaned from this little thought experiment other than blow your computer out because it's easy and there's no risk of damage, very small risk of damage. I guess if you're carrying it outside and you drop it. But apart from that, the risk of damage by replacing thermal compound is much, much higher. And although a lot of people will say it's an easy job, that's how I get a lot of my work. Somebody started an easy job and the screwdriver slipped or some little mistake happened, and then it comes to me for repair when it was a system that should have never been opened and worked on to that level to begin with. I mean, it bought me a car, so I guess keep doing it. But I'd really like to see you save your money and spend it on things that matter, like buying more RAM or going out to a nice dinner, you know, actually getting some return on investment that you're not going to get on thermal compound, and without the risk necessarily that opening the computer up to replace, to undo your heatsink, unless you're going to do that for some other reason, then I'd say, yeah, go ahead and replace a thermal compound, but I wouldn't do it strictly for the purpose of replacing thermal compound. That's a secondary thing. A primary thing would be blow the dust and dirt out of it and leave it at that. That's probably going to make a bigger difference. Also, check the bottom of your power supply. Be sure and always blow out your power supply front and bottom, or back and bottom, because your power supply is an enclosed ecosystem. Then you don't know the temps of it, and you don't know if it's being suffocated unless you actually look. There's no YouTube video, there's nothing online you can watch that can tell you that status of your dying, suffocated, insulated with dust power supply that you're using right now, maybe. And that right there will make a massive difference in how hot your computer gets, because if your power supply is struggling, that power supply gets hot and that heat radiates throughout the entire case. But again, people keep focusing on the little stuff and they keep overlooking the big stuff, and it drives me nuts. All right, we are now at 19.5 minutes, and we've actually gone a little hotter, haven't we? Our max is now 1 degree hotter at 77. Our current is currently 3 degrees warmer, it's, well, 2, it's 74. Our average was 65, our average right now is 69, and we just crossed the 20-minute mark. So we just made the system hotter. Did you get that? You were here, you witnessed it, there's no magic involved. Let me hit Function, Alt, Print Screen, and let's screenshot this. And let's save this as JPEG after, we'll just say, now that's probably not what you expected. That's probably not what you wanted to see, and it's probably nothing you've ever seen on another YouTube video ever before, because it's not edited, it's live. So there's no way for me to contrive this video to meet an agenda that I'm trying to convey. What's happening, I have no control over it, and this is all one take, unscripted, and it rolls the way it rolls. So here's the thing, and this will be interesting. Let's leave it running. This is how crazy I'm gonna be. Let's pop this dongle out of here. Let's take the lid and remove it. How does that change our temps by opening the lid? Are temps going up or are temps going down? Prime 95 is still running. The clock is still running. Our current temp is now 71 degrees Celsius. And it looks like it's dropping. It's dropping to 69, 68. All I did was take the lid off of it. And this is what people do. Their computer's running hot. They take the cover off of it. They replace the thermal compound. They blow the fan and the heatsink out. They put it back together. And with the cover still off, they run the test. They go, look how much cooler it's running. Now that I've replaced the thermal compound, everybody should do this. I'm going to make a video and tell the world. Do you understand how that upsets me? Now let's take it a step further. Well, it's running. Let's get some of the stuff blown out of it. We're at 62. Did that just drop 10 degrees? 61. By the way, you should not be blowing the dust and dirt out of your computer with the computer on. That's a very unsafe thing to do. Still going down. We're at 60 now. 60 degrees Celsius is our current temperature. Wasn't this a lot easier than going through the thermal compound deal and risking breaking it? Wasn't that so much faster, simpler, more straightforward, and actually yielded positive results? Now, here's what I want to know. Let's stop Prime 95. And having changed nothing else, all I want to do is stop Prime 95. So let me bring up, oh, I gotta use the right mouse. Prime 95, I gotta use this mouse. I left my dongle unplugged. Those of you who are keeping score can see this isn't edited. This is all live. There's proof. All right, now I'm going to bring up Prime 95 and I'm going to temporarily stop it. And we'll just minimize this and get it out of the way. Now watch these temperatures continue to drop now that we're not hammering on the CPU anymore. So I want to bring these temperatures back down to about where they were before we started any testing. And I'm going to start Prime 95 up again for 20 more minutes, but I want to clear this whole bank of information out. So we're going to close HW info and we're going to open it up again. And we're going to do this all over. Sensors only, start. Okay, so we're sitting around 40 degrees Celsius right now. Remember, with the lid off of it, it's not an accurate test. I see there's some dirt and debris on the lid, right over where the fan is. We just want to wipe that out so it doesn't just go right back into the fan again. We'll slide our cover back on, put my dongle back in. I'll even tighten the screw up in the back. Now I'm going to start Prime 95 again. Now keep in mind our clock is at 30 seconds, okay? So let's bring up Prime 95. We'll start this up and run all 4 cores. Oh, it didn't even ask me. Test, exit. Let's start it over here. Prime 95. That's what I want to see. Now slam the 4 cores. Minimize that, close that, close that. And our clock is just about at a minute. So when it gets to, let's just call it 21 minutes, that'll be our 20-minute test. And you can see we've reset our maximum temp. So let's see if we do any better from having done that. Now, how many of you in the chat thinks that will actually make a difference? Or will we just be right back to where we came from and just see the same results again and again? Let me know in the chat, what do you think is going to happen? So remember, thermal compound is not cooling compound. It's like you guys think this is going to cool the CPU, like this is fresh mint. Cool, refreshing mint flavor. This is heat transfer compound. Heat transfer compound. It does not cool anything. When it's working effectively, it transfers heat more effectively. When does thermal compound not transfer heat effectively? If it gets contaminated with dust, debris, oils from your skin, any sort of contaminant. But why would there be contaminants on what is essentially one piece of metal on top of another? There's no room for anything to get in there. It's also not sealed off, right? It's not like it's airtight. Primarily, getting the dust and the debris out of the heatsink, out of the fan, is going to result in a quieter fan, a quieter computer, a cooler running computer. Doing this, that is a waste of your money and a waste of your time. Prove me wrong. Make a video, show me the before and the after. Prove me wrong. Post a link to your video. I don't want to hear your fishtails. I don't want to hear about a friend of yours or some video you watched. You make the video and you prove it. And if you can't or you're unwilling to, then everything you've got to say is just noise. Because I've been doing this a long time. And I'm not like, I got to take down Big Thermal. Big Thermal's got the big money. I got to go into hiding after this video. Big Thermal's going to take me down. I got nothing in it. I'm just trying to be helpful. Let me waste my money, Carey. Why do you care? My name is Carey. Blame my mother. Kurt Schlegel with a $10 contribution says, interesting test this evening, Carey. Thank you. Right on, Kurt. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Let me just take a quick look. I've lost track of time. Glasses. And 10 feet to the monitor. It says the test is on 4 minutes and 40 seconds. We've reached 70 degrees currently and a peak of 72. Not looking much different at all. Of course, that will vary depending on just how dirty your system is. And remember, your power supply. Can we give a moment of silence for the vast majority of computer owners that have never, ever, not once, blown the dust and debris out of their power supply? Oh, they might have blown the dust and debris out of the computer. Maybe once. Around Y2K. But they haven't done it since. And they usually never, ever blow out the power supply. Carey, how would you know that? Do you just go into people's homes and look? They hire me to go into their homes. Yes, that's exactly what happens. I am a computer technician. I've seen tens of thousands of computers in over 30 years of doing this. And many of them, most of them have a very common denominator. And especially in Arizona where it's dry and dusty. If they don't get blown out every year, it can create thermal problems, not necessarily overheating, but that the fans are running loudly and customers call and say, what can we do about it? And sometimes the fan they're hearing is the power supply fan. So you say, well, just blow it out. They go, well, I already blew it out. All right, let's take a look at it. And then come to find out they did not blow out the power supply. And when you blow out the power supply, you've got to blow it out from underneath, and you got to blow it out from the back. You got to go both directions, or you end up with all the dust over on one side. It's like hiding behind a wall, right? All the airflow is going around the dust. So now you got to hit the dust this way to get this dust out that side of it. And you might want to wear one of those N95 masks. You might be shocked. Not literally. I hope not literally, because you want to work on the computer while it's unplugged, right? And I hope you take it outside, because otherwise you're going to have this big plume of dust, and you know where it's going to go? Right back into the power supply again, and also into your lungs. So if I were you, I'd take it outside. Get yourself one of these little air compressors. They're cheaper than canned air. If you use it a few times, it'll pay for itself. The battery lasts a good long time. It's got enough air pressure to do the job. And you can use it in your car. You can use it to get into little crevices and things you're cleaning other than computers. It's very useful. It's got a carbon brush that you can touch the electronics while it's off. And it's safe to brush things, although I make it a general rule to not make any contact with the parts, but it's safe to do so with this brush. And do it outside with the machine unplugged. And then leave me a comment and say, thank you, my computer runs quieter now. And you saved me some money, I didn't have to do this nonsense. We are almost 8 minutes. Well, I guess we started 30 seconds or about a minute, right? So we're currently at 69 degrees Celsius with a max of 72 with another 13 minutes or so to go. So while we wait one more time, and for the last time, questions in the chat, I'd be happy to address any comments, concerns. Where do you get these? I have an Amazon store. Go to amazon.com/shop/CareyHolzman, and you'll see over 100 products I use in my videos available for purchase at Amazon. Anytime your question starts with, where did you get? The answer is almost always going to be, go to amazon.com/shop/CareyHolzman, and you'll find the product there. Thank you for the question. My friend Ron said his dog Kumo, which is a big, hairy, he's not an Akita. What is he? It's getting old, man. I can't remember anything anymore. But at least I can remember I'm forgetting, so I got that going for me. A Great Pyrenees. Thank you, Ron. He's a Great Pyrenees. He's great and hairy. And there's a lot of them, so there's a lot of hair. And he says his hair gets into my system constantly. He's got cats, dogs, especially. Even more important that you dust them out. Not the cats or the dogs. Maybe, but definitely the computer. I mean, look, you would know if your computer needed to be dusted if it could tell you the way a dog did. We should have like a hardware peripheral of just a panting tongue. Oh, time for the air duster. Ross Bittner in the chat says, Carey, I bought at your recommendation. Oh, one of these. I've used it. I used to use canned air, and I think one charge of this blower is like 4 cans of air. It pays for itself in about 2 full charges. Yeah, well, depending on what you're paying for that canned air, which isn't canned air. We call it canned air, but it's a canned chemical. And if you turn the can sideways and that chemical gets on your skin, it'll give you a 3rd-degree burn, or it can. If you get it on plastics, it can discolor the plastics. This will never do that. If you use an air compressors build up humidity in the air tank, so unless you have a water filter, it'll spray water. It'll spray moisture onto your board. It's also possible to crank the PSI up too high and damage the board. So this is a much safer, cheaper, quieter solution. And a lithium-ion battery, you can have this thing sitting on a shelf for 2 months. It still has a good charge on it to continue using it. It's not like the old days where the batteries would drain after a couple weeks and then you're back to, you haven't used it. You charge it, you put it on a shelf, you grab it 10 days, 2 weeks later, it's dead. Not with lithium-ion, baby. Just charge it through the USB port. It's ready when you need it. Throw it in the car, have it to clean up the stuff that gets in the crevice between the seat and the center console, the dash, and all the little nooks and crannies of your dashboard and your vents. It's good for more than just the computer. Ron says his son has a scar on his leg from canned air. I believe it. John Gardner said, the first time I blew up my PC, well, my cat walked past. My wife asked when we got a tricolor, and the cat avoided me for weeks after that. It's weird, though. If you blow into a dog's face, they hate that. But if you take a dog in the car, what do they want to do? They want to stick their head out the window and have the wind hit them in the face. What is it, dogs? Do you want the wind in your face or you don't? Maybe it's my breath. Don't say anything. It's fine. It smells like lemon lime. And potato. All right, let me just take a look again at what this is saying. Oh, it's too tiny to read. It's way too tiny to read. I thought I would outsmart the full screen trick, but I'm going to have to go full screen. Ah, there it is. Okay, so this now says we have, it says 13 minutes. What did I do? Did I just step on the cable? I just stepped on something. I lost my signal. Oh no, it went to sleep. I just wiggled the mouse. All right, so let me go back over here one more time. And 13 and a half minutes. We started this about 30 seconds in, so it's about 13 minutes in. 71 is our current, 73 is our max. We still have about 7 minutes to go. And I just want to double check all my connections here because I don't like it when that screen blinks out on me. And I thought I set these to not go to sleep or to wait like 3 hours. Let me just check that. Oh yeah, set it 10 minutes. Change that to like 3 hours. Put the computer to sleep, never. Perfect. Now, it's a live video. What are you gonna do? That explains why that was happening. All right, so 71 and 73. All right. Circuit Wizard said, I remember the original blowing out of dust with the leaf blower. Oh, I still have that right here. I don't use that on little tiny 1 liter PCs because I don't want to fish it out of my neighbor's pool. Again, for the 4th time. My neighbor doesn't think it's funny when I go, ha-ha, liquid cooling. He says he doesn't want a heated pool. It's Phoenix. I asked him to buy a jacuzzi. He said no. Paul Carroll with a $50 super chat. Wow, thank you so much, Paul. He says, well, it's time for some Gatorade money. Thanks, Carey, for this helpful info. Here's a little more thirst quencher drinks. This one has been getting a little warm. I've nursed this almost to the point of drinking an ounce of it. So let me put this back in the fridge so it'll cool back down. Unlike Coca-Cola, you know, this won't go flat, so it's good to put it back. Once Coke gets warm, yeah. Just dump it down the sink, done with it. Thank you very much, Paul. Cool and refreshing. Oh, let me put a little thermal compound up there. Oh, so much better. Is there something on my forehead? Buns of Wisdom says, thanks, Carey, for the amazing info and the thermal paste experiment. I really appreciate the effort you put into your stream. Thank you. My urologist said the same thing. Why is that funny? All right, let's take a look where we're at on our test. I'm hearing that fan really crank up in there. Let's see, it says we're at 75 degrees currently. Oh, it just dropped to 74. Our max is 76. Now, for a reminder, before we open this computer to fix it, we fixed it, didn't we? Because before we started, If we left it alone, these were our results right over here. Just drop that down a little bit more. Okay, this is with the old thermal compound before we opened it to fix it, when there was nothing wrong with it. After 20 minutes and 31 seconds, our temp was 72 and our max was 76. Then we replaced the thermal compound. We opened it up, risking damage. We got our isopropyl alcohol, cotton balls and paper towels and thermal compound. We were prepared with a nitrile glove to do this job. And that stuff doesn't grow off trees. Well, the cotton balls maybe, but that's beside the point. So with our new thermal compound and the labor and time and effort we put into changing the thermal compound, after 20 minutes of prime 95, we saw temps of 75 at the 20-minute and 30-second mark, and 76 as an overall maximum temp that was hit. We've already hit 77 after all of this time and effort and money. Worth it? Tell me why that's worth it. Somebody explain this to me. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's live. Of course, I can edit the video and keep working on this and figuring out a way I can get these temps lowered if I wanted to, but that would be entertainment. That wouldn't be accurate education. So I don't really have an agenda here. I don't have any control over what's going to happen in a live video. I can't predict what's going to happen outside of 30 plus years of experience. I have a general idea of what's going to happen. And in a best case scenario, if we did all of this and it was really dusty in there and you saw dust come out, which you didn't, but I didn't clean it beforehand. This is just how the machines were sent to me from eBay. We maybe would have seen 1 to 3 degrees Celsius cooler. That's the best we could have hoped for all of that time and all of that effort. And we could have damaged the computer. Even though it's an easy job, mistakes happen, screwdrivers slip, things get spilled, things get dropped. Where'd the screw go? I can't find it. Why? Why do people do this to themselves? Now, we're just about at the 20-minute and 30-second mark. What I say, I'd let this run to 21 minutes, right? Because I had a little trouble starting it. It's another problem I talked to my urologist about. So there's at 74 degrees currently. 68 has been our average, whereas before 69 was our average. So we're a little better there. 77 was our maximum before. 77 was our maximum now. We're pretty much in line. Nothing much changed. The room has gotten a little bit cooler though, because finally Arizona's cooling down. I want to mention, just as I did earlier, what the temperature is. It's now reading 79 degrees. So this whole room has gotten 4 to 5 degrees cooler than when I started this video. And if you don't calculate that into your thermal results, you are doing yourself, and especially if you're making a video about it, your entire audience a complete injustice. It's a misrepresentation of the efficacy of the work you did, and it's completely manipulating the justification by not providing full disclosure information, and they may not be aware that they've left the information out. You don't know what you don't know. So when you convey what you do know, leaving out what you don't know, then the people you conveyed it to only know what you know, and in most cases still don't know what you don't know. So off the rails this whole thing goes with false information based on wrong processes. That anyway, it just, here you go. You see it for yourselves here. Now I can stop this. I don't need to do this anymore. So let me come back over here. Let's stop prime 95 and let this thing cool down a minute. So I'm going to come over here, go to test, go to stop. Yes. And then we're going to close that down and close this down. And I don't really want to save this screen. It's not important. if there was a lot of dust and debris that came out of there, that could have made a pretty big difference. However, all this time that you just spent with me and that I spent with you to make this computer better, was it worth it? Do you wish you could go back and not watch this video because it was a complete waste of your time? Well, think of the time I just saved you from going through replacing the thermal compound in your machine because you thought it was going to make a difference. Mic drop. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Thank you for listening, having an open mind, receiving the information. If you find any flaw in the test that I just demonstrated to you that would have changed the results, let me know sincerely, not a joke like, oh, you didn't do that at the Arctic. Like, sincerely, if there's a test, if I did something inaccurately, please tell me what I did wrong, and I will be happy to redo it again if I agree that that could absolutely make a difference. To the best of my knowledge, and again, with all my experience, this doesn't make a difference. This is just something you do when you're changing a heat sink out, or you've got to change a CPU out, which doesn't happen often. You don't open a computer just to do this and think it's going to do anything beneficial for you other than maybe it gives you warm fuzzies, but scientifically, yeah, it's not helpful. Unless you're an extremist. And if you're an extremist, I don't even know why you're watching my channel, because I'm all about practicality and I'm about the average computer user, because that's who drives my business. Corporations and average home users. Don't see a lot of businesses that specialize in extreme computer repair or extreme computer builds. They do exist, although usually they exist temporarily. They're not typically around more than a few years. That's a very difficult business model to sustain. So, not to say they don't exist, but far more IT infrastructure exists to take care of the practical, not the impractical in the enthusiast level that's just there to entertain themselves with an excess of both time and money. Most of my clients do not have an excess of either. So I respect that, and I try to help as many people as I can, and that includes advising them on some dangerous activities, whether it's clicking on links or email attachments they shouldn't be doing, or following tutorial videos on YouTube to fix a problem they don't have. And if they want to do that, they've got my number to call me to pay me to fix it. But if they leave it alone, if you just do some minor preventive maintenance, likely you'll have a computer that will run from new to 8 to 10 years before you'll have to replace it. The enthusiasts, they'll replace their computer every year or 2 years because what was fast this year is not fast enough for them anymore, right? They're kind of snobby elitists because that's not good enough. That's a $900 CPU, not good enough. There's a $905 CPU now. I've got to have that one. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm jealous because if I could afford to live that lifestyle, I'd like a little taste of that. But for the rest of us, we need to make our hardware last as long as possible. There's other things we'd rather spend our money on than another computer. Unless it was a rocket ship of a computer, and who doesn't want that? Until you find out that it's $3,500. And then it's like, this one's fine. This is fine. All right, I think that'll wrap it up for me. I think I've made my point. If you disagree, I'm seeking valid arguments. If you're just being silly, whatever. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you for the contributions, especially to Paul Carroll, who contributed a couple of times tonight. A total of $70 in Super Chat tonight from Paul Carroll. Outstanding. Kurt Schlegel, Craig Casabona, Ferris, and Paul Carroll also became a member. And Dennis Kine and William Smith have extended their memberships. Thank you guys. As always, Mondays at 1 o'clock Pacific time are always live members-only videos. And thank you, Camera Girl, for the close-up work. Thank you, Thermal Compound, for doing exactly nothing. Yeah, thank you, Carey, for not labeling these without having drives in them. I don't know how did I thought for sure I put drives in every single one of them.
Organized pile.
I got to do some shopping and pick up some more drives because I used them all. I thought I ordered as many PCs as I had drives. I miscalculated. Math is hard. Bike Man says, great stream, Carey. Hey, thank you. Starshine says, so much thermal. OG Gaming says, hello, everybody. I just got here. Oh, well, then for you. Hi, my name is CareyHolzman. Today it is April 15th, Saturday, 2023. And today I'm going to be teaching exemplifying, using as an example, the pointless exercise of replacing thermal compounds. So let's start by opening up one of these computers. Let me grab one that doesn't have a drive in it. I want to do this all over because he just arrived. Oh, he can just rewind it? Oh.
Should we DVR them?
Okay. Josh Gardner says, thanks for another great video, Carey. Hey, John. Did I say Josh? John, thank you. Patrick Rusaw says he picked up a 512 gig solid state drive at Newegg for under 25 bucks. Yeah, their SSD prices and RAM prices have really gotten very attractive. Yeah, stock up. Glenn's Music wants to know, if I put this thermal compound under my shirt, will I get hot under the collar? This doesn't generate heat. It should help transfer the heat to the shirt. Frank M says he sells DVD rewinders. Paul Carroll with another super chat. Thank you again for your generosity, Paul. I appreciate you very much. Hello, and thank you to our friends who aren't here tonight. Boy, I didn't want to sound like they're dead. They're not here tonight. Our friend John Jack Wilson, and of course Buster, Peter Lycock, where the time difference has made it very difficult for them to watch some of these live streams. But I'm sure they'll be watching it later, and there's just a little treat for them at the very end. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday evening. I think I'll have dinner. Have I eaten today? I don't think I've eaten today, so.
No. No.
Put this on some carrots. Is it fresh? Hold on. That's not fresh. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.